Hello, I'm Kads and welcome to today's video. Today we're going to be talking about my fusion plan for getting Wight Queen Ankora, one of the coolest supports added to the game recently in my opinion, and she is a Fragment summon champion. She is Magic Affinity, I believe she's in the Knight Revenants, and we can go through her kit really quickly. So Wight Queen Ankora is actually like an amalgamation of a bunch of different supports, and we'll kind of highlight those as we go through the entire kit. So on the A1, attacks on enemy has a 30%, books up to a 50% chance of decreasing the cooldown of random ally skills by 2 turns. This is like a supercharged A1 of Golden Reaper, which is a Knight Revenant epic. And then if her partner is on the same team, the cooldown reduction will go to him. If it procs, still a 50-50 chance. And then if he's on the same team and he has no active skills that require the cooldown to be reduced, then it will be the same as the default version. And then lastly, if a cooldown is fully reset, it heals the ally by 10% of her max HP, meaning it can be pretty substantial considering that her base stats are pretty healthy, 20,000, almost 21,000 on the HP, and then 1,200 on the defense, and a 111 on the speed, so very, very fast, and a little bit of bonus resistance in her kit. On the A2, we essentially have the Mithrala cleanse, where it's a full cleanse, removing all debuffs from all allies and placing a shield equal to 25% of this champion's max HP, again scaling off her maximum HP, meaning it can be a pretty hefty shield. And then if she's paired with her partner, Wight King Narcisse, then you also get strengthen on top of that, aka the full Mithrala ability. On top of that, it also fills the turn meter of all allies by 10%, so it can be a little bit better than Mithrala's ability. And this one books to a 3-turn cooldown. So on the A3, the final ability, we kind of have a mix of Siphi and Godseeker Aniri here with this revive, where we have half HP, pretty high turn meter, 75%, and then the Aniri part being the resetting of the cooldowns of the revived ally skills. Now, if the person revived is her partner, Wight King Narcisse, then it's going to revive him with 75% HP and 100% turn meter, which does not mean it's maximum turn meter or full turn meter, it just means 100%, which pretty much doesn't guarantee that he's going to go, but he has a very high likelihood of taking a turn. And in addition to that, it can also decrease, this ability can decrease the turn meter of all enemies by 10%, and if the revived person is again the Wight King, then it will be 20% and it cannot be resisted. So this is the only part of her kit that would need accuracy, reducing the turn meter of enemies by 10% when casting the revive, which notably is on a 3-turn cooldown, which is pretty substantial. And lastly, we do have the passive here, which essentially just says that whenever an enemy tries to place a CC debuff, so fear, true fear, etc., provokes on an ally with the highest crit damage, it will transfer those debuffs to this champion instead. And if she loses her turn because she is stunned or petrified or whatever, then after that turn is ended, she'll get 50% turn meter boost. Now by itself, that piece does seem a little weird as far as the kit is concerned, but you have to keep in mind that the way this ability works is that if you build her with enough resistance, when the target for the CC debuff is redirected to her, she has a chance to resist it using her own resistance. So if you have a squishy nuker champion who has no resistance, it comes to her and she might be able to resist it on their behalf. And of course it gets better if you pair her with a partner, where even if she does get any CC on her because she doesn't have enough resistance, or you don't build her with resistance at all, she'll cleanse herself at the start of her turn if paired with Wight King Narcisse. Now this does have a 3-turn cooldown, but it books all the way down to 0, and I think the grand total of her books is adding up to 10, so pretty reasonable in terms of books. And then the aura is speed in all battles by 19%, pretty average as far as speed auras in all battles are concerned. So in my opinion, I think she's a solid A, dare I say A+ champion. I think she has a lot of support capability in her kit. I think her A1 is going to be more underrated than people realize, because every time she can counterattack, she has a chance to do this, ally attack, etc., so she can really keep your team running. Obviously if you pair her with her partner, they're a pretty broken combo, maybe not broken, but they're pretty strong combo that can absolutely handle Ataruses and Marichkas and a lot of other meta champions in the game. And then again, the 3-turn cooldown on the revive is a lot sooner than you might think if you're going against her, especially if you build her fast, which is going to be easy again with her base speed. So yeah, I'm not going to say that she's a must get, but I think you should seriously consider banking her, because she will be probably useful for a majority of the player base. If you're a super whale in the end game, perhaps not, but for the majority of us, I think she could fit into a lot of arena teams. You build her high speed, high resistance, and she can do some work for your team. So if you have been convinced and you do want to pursue the Wight Queen Ankora, then let's take a look at the fusion calendar via the spreadsheet, which will be linked in the description box down below if you want to check out this fusion plan. There's definitely some controversy surrounding this fusion, but we'll get to that later. So starting off, this fusion is pretty standard for the most part. We have the standard 4-dungeon split here between the core dungeons. We have a couple of classic arena tournaments. We have a short 3-day champion training tournament. We have a champion chase, which will most likely be 2 times Ancients. Maybe I'll put a question mark here. We haven't had 2 times Ancients for a while. We've had Sacreds being the last one and Voids being the previous one. They've kind of gone out of the normal standard order for a while now, but I do believe it should be 2 times Ancients, but TBD shall be confirmed when it comes out. We have a pair of divers kind of back to back. That's what this black line here is meant to signify, is that it's not a 6-day divers, it's 2-3 days that happen to perfectly overlap. Then we have 3 artifact enhancements, no champion training event, which we'll talk about in a few seconds, standard summon rush, and then the controversial part where we have a hero's path as part of the fusion for the first time, at least being a non-bonus aspect of the fusion. Now, before you start to freak out about a hero's path and you're thinking of the one for Latreon Blade Master, first of all, there have been many forms of the hero's path, some good, some bad, and Latreon Blade Master's one was an example of one that's a little bit more on the bad side. There have definitely been a lot of reasonable ones as well. So the thing to make note of here is that this hero's path is most likely going to replace the champion training event that we talked about that is missing, and if I had to guess, it's also going to feature a dungeon divers aspect, which is honestly good. I know that might be controversial to say, or maybe it's a hot take, but combining champion training and divers, one, they naturally synergize as long as you're champion training, you're getting dungeon divers points because you're running campaign and getting the shields, and then you're just champion training on top of it. And 2, it's the most accessible form of a hero's path, meaning that anyone and everyone can participate because there's never a bad time to do champion training to work on building champions for your account. And typically speaking, the hero's path events do not overlap with ongoing events, so there probably won't be a shard pull aspect because we do have a champion chase. There's going to be artifact enhancements alongside of it or during it, so there's probably not going to be that aspect either. If I had to guess, I would suspect that there probably will be some soulstone pulling aspects of it, but I do think that the primary form of acquiring points will be champion training, again because there is no champion training event as part of the fusion, and then there is no Dungeon Divers 3, which would normally be around here or so it kind of looks like it falls right into that category. So in this case, I happen to blend the noteworthy elements into the layout description here, but yes, this is a fragment summon, so it is not a traditional fusion, meaning you don't have to level a bunch of rares into epics and epics into the legendary. You just need to collect the fragments from the events. And side note here, I did add for all of the fusions, at least in this spreadsheet, I went back and added the amount of fragments in each of the events and tournaments, so you can kind of check your way along the way here. We talked about the hero's path being different. It should be, again, champion training and dungeon divers. And the other thing to highlight would be, of course, the pinch points, where you have to really manage your energy very well because you have an overlap between champion training and a dungeon tournament, namely this section here where we have champion training overlapping with the ends of Fire Knight and the beginnings of Spider, and then most likely the hero's path event, which will entirely overlap with the dragon tournament, and then a little bit of the ice golem tournament. As always, at the bottom here, I will include my energy plan. So this is where I plan to spend my energy. It's not necessarily a recommendation, but it is how I plan to do it. And the one thing I want to note here is that Dungeon Divers 1 starts tomorrow, so I will be holding off on Fire Knight until tomorrow before just to maximize the amount of points, because Dungeon Divers are usually very painful, one of the most painful parts of any fusion nowadays. Hopping over to the predicted milestones, anything with an asterisk is a predicted value. Anything that's just does not have an asterisk means that it's confirmed by the game, it's already live. And then typically after the fact, I go in and put parentheses around the applicable areas where it's resources that I use, just so you can see, or you can go back in time and see what I actually did for these fusions. So most things are pretty much the same. 2250 is the benchmark as far as acquiring fragments and or rares or epics or whatever from the dungeon tournaments. 390 is always what they have for classic arena tournaments, and that's usually easy for most people to do. Champion training, it's only 3 days, so I do expect it to be a little bit lower on the easier side, so under 4,000 over the course of 3 days should be very doable. I expect always the same amount of 2,500 for champion chases. It may be slightly higher because she is a pretty decent champion, but until we know, I'm going to put it at 2,500. Dungeon Divers, I'm expecting the worst, so 3,700 for 3 days, which are always brutal, and they're back-to-back in this case, so you kind of get no break. We have 3 artifact enhancements. I'm expecting the worst again there for 775, which is pretty standard, roughly 25 million silver if you're just upgrading gear, but you can definitely get it lower than that by using some tactics. For the summon rush, I do expect the standard 2150 at the lower milestone, but I also think they might do a higher milestone of around 4,100, so up to 8 sacreds maximum for getting that one. Now let's talk about a couple of current events in the game, as well as talk about our supply count that we like to do at the start of every fusion, so you guys can see and track how many supplies I use during the course of a fusion. I always start the fusion this way. way, and I always end them with a post on the community tab where you can see, or I summarize all those supplies that I used in terms of silver and gems over the course of the fusion. So in this case, we're starting off with 4,400 on the gems and just under 25 million on the silver. So we'll see where that goes over the course of the next 13 days. And starting off with the tournaments, of course, we saw them in the sheet, but the Fire Knight tournament is already live. And like I said, I have not started that, and I don't plan to start that until tomorrow once the Dungeon Divers 1 is live. So you can see 2250 for the milestone there. Well, if it ever loads. And then Classic Arena Tournament, again, top milestone is at 39 or 390, which should be very, very easy for everyone in the game. You can see me, well, happenstance, being exactly at 390. But unless you're in like low tiers of bronze or maybe early silver, it might be harder to get to 390. But once you're kind of get going in the arena, 390 is definitely a cakewalk. When it comes to the events, like we said, most of them aren't live yet, and they're starting tomorrow. So we do have the Summon Rush, which will begin. The champions are already out as far as we know for that one. We'll see the return of the Ruinous Archer or Ruiner Archer in the Progressive Chance events starting tomorrow, and then Dungeon Divers, as we talked about, will start tomorrow as well. So not much going on today. My focus is still on the champion training event, which I'm just wrapping up. So you can see I'm at like 1,200 away from getting myself my legendary tome as the tome chaser that I am. So that's going to be my focus for the rest of the night, and then I'll start Fire Knight in the morning. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's video. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think of this champion. Are you on high on her as I am? The Wight Queen Ankora is who I'm referring to, or do you think she's not worth going for? Are you scared by the advent of the hero's path, or are you a little bit more confident in the ways that I am? Let me know all of that in the comment section down below. As usual, the fusion plan spreadsheet will be linked in the description box down below if you want to check out this fusion or any of them going all the way back to Pythian. And as always, if you did find this video helpful, then be sure to hit that like button down below. And if you enjoyed the video, then be sure to subscribe to the channel for more content just like this one in the future. We are still on the road to 1,000 subscribers on the channel, and I think that we can pull this off in February. We have about 60 subs to go. So once again, if you are enjoying the content, if and only if you are enjoying the content, then feel free to subscribe to the channel. Help me out, help us get to 1,000. That way we can continue to grow together and reach even more people with hopefully this amazing content. Thanks for watching, and have a good one.